Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So today I'm going to talk about how you have the right to enjoy your beauty however you want. I've noticed that a lot of people try to police a woman's beauty from the time you are a teenager all the way up until you are an old woman. I've noticed people will tell you things like, oh, don't dress like this because that's how hoes dress. Or, if you dress like XYZ, you're going to get harassed. Or that color doesn't look good on your skin tone. You can't wear that color. You can't pull off that makeup look. And I've noticed that a lot of us women, due to things like patriarchy and misogyny, and also due to the insecurities of other women, it causes us to sometimes dull down our beauty. So on this channel, I talk a lot about the concept of pretty privilege, and I also talk about pretty girl problems. And one of the main pretty girl problems is when you have family members who are policing your beauty. So, people who try to tell you what you can and can't do with your body, people who try to say what looks good on you and what doesn't. And at the end of the day, other people can give their opinions, but what you think about yourself is what matters most. And I think that a part of my decentering men journey has been taking back ownership over my own beauty, taking ownership over my own body. This has also been a part of my mixed race journey as well, kind of embracing being mixed race and stop trying to constantly prove my blackness or, constantly trying to do things in order to only show solidarity with the African American community, denying other parts of myself so that I don't appear to be racist. I'm no longer doing that. So, a part of my journey to self restoration has been taking control over my own image, taking control over my own beauty. I know that when it came to this Chili thing, Chili from TLC, she is a mixed race woman who is not white passing. And I noticed that one of the first things people said is, well, she doesn't usually look caramel when she is out and about. Like when she's on her music videos and when she's on the red carpet, she doesn't appear to be caramel skinned. And so how dare she say that when she doesn't have a tan, she has caramel skin? But my thing is, Chili doesn't owe you shit. Celebrities don't owe you anything. You don't own or control their image. And I talk about it all the time on my channel, how pretty women are treated like celebrities. And so sometimes I do use actual celebrities as an example, but I feel like everyday pretty women are treated like this as well. People don't want you to have control over how you perceive your own skin tone. People don't want you to have control over how you perceive your own hair texture. I've seen people arguing back and forth like, oh, you're not a 3C, you're a 4B. Oh, your hair texture is not this, your hair texture isn't that. Oh, you're not an hourglass shape, you have a rectangle shape. So it's like people are trying so hard to police another woman's beauty. And in my opinion, the only reason that you try to police another woman's beauty is because you either pedestalize whatever that beauty type is, or you are threatened by that person. And so, because you are threatened by them, you don't want them to have control over their own self perception. So, regardless of whether or not I agree with Chili being naturally caramel without a tan, it doesn't really matter because what matters most is what Chili thinks of herself. And also, when it comes to taking ownership over your own beauty, you are the one who is living in your own body every day. So, at least that's the way I try to think of it. It's like, no, I'm the one who's living in my own body every day. I am the one who looks at myself in the mirror. So I know myself and I know my face and I know my skin and my hair, my nose. I know all of my features better than anybody else because I've been living with them for 32 years. It's funny because I recently got Botox. This is my second time getting Botox. A lot of people say black don't crack. Like if you have blackness in you, you don't have to worry about getting any Botox or aging and stuff. But it's like, okay, it's my body. And it's funny because after I got the Botox, my mom didn't notice a difference. My dad didn't notice anything. My brothers didn't notice anything. My sister didn't notice anything. But you know who did notice a difference? Me. And that's what's most important. I'm the one who looks at myself in the mirror every day. You know how people, they try to talk this bullshit like, oh, you should look in the mirror and love what you see. Okay, well, if I love what I see when I get Botox, even if nobody else can see the difference, even if nobody else ever noticed those frown lines, even if nobody else ever noticed that sagging, even if I am the only one who ever notices that aspect of my beauty, I have the right to do so. I have the right to enjoy how I look. You know why? Because then I am achieving this whole thing of looking in the mirror and loving what I see. So that is a part of my beauty journey. That is a part of me decentering other people's opinions on my journey. So if I feel like I look very beautiful when I have Botox or when I have the brightest skin tone possible, when I have the darkest skin tone possible. I notice that's another trigger point for a lot of people because there are some people who associate certain skin tones with being more beautiful than others. And by the way, I'm not judging anybody. I understand that, some people think that chocolate skin is beautiful. Some people think white skin is beautiful, golden, whatever. I personally think all shades can be beautiful. But I also understand that there are some women out there who prefer their tone to be a different shade. So maybe they prefer their tone to be the brightest it can possibly be. And then there are others who like to go tanning and sunbathing and they prefer that their tone is the darkest that it can possibly be. It's their body. So I don't have the right to try to control how others manage their beauty. So the way that I view it is I am the manager of my own beauty. And this is also why sometimes when I hear women complaining about, oh, I don't have pretty privilege, XYZ white girls have more privilege than me, so-and-so skinny girls have more privilege, and they start describing the types of women who supposedly have so much more pretty privilege than them. But guess what? You are the manager of your beauty. That's the way I like to see it. I'm the manager of my beauty. So if I feel like some other woman is receiving more pretty privilege than me, or I feel like she is receiving a privilege that I don't have, I only have two options. I can either go out and attain that feature. So for example, I personally believe that thin privilege is like a really big one for me. I think that's very important for myself. I know that some people, they like being thick or they like being a BBW. They like being super curvy and like being a size 12, size 14, whatever. But for me personally, thin privilege is a thing. So instead of me complaining that so-and-so other girl is skinnier than me, I decided to get off my butt and go attain that particular privilege. And even though I'm not the same exact size as I was in my early 20s, because I was like a size 0, so I was literally underweight at 5'9", even though I'm not that skinny, the fact that I took ownership over my own beauty, that is the part that made me feel powerful. That's the part that stopped me from feeling powerless. And so when I do all of these videos where I talk about pretty privilege and I talk about pretty girl problems, the point of doing these videos, it's not to like be mean to anyone. It's not meant to complain. It's meant to help you decide for yourself, like, wait a minute, do I want to be in charge of my own beauty? Am I going to take ownership over my own beauty, or am I going to allow others to convince me that I am a victim of my own ugliness? And that's just the best way I can think of to describe it. Because some people, they will just straight up say comments to you like, oh, well, because of your blackness, you're always going to be at the bottom. Or because of your skin tone, because of your weight, because of XYZ, you're going to be at the bottom. I have decided, wait a minute, do I want to internalize what they're saying? Even if what they are saying is true, do I want that to be my story? Or am I willing to grow some boobs? I don't like saying grow some balls. I'm trying to think of a feminine way to say it. Am I willing to grow some boobs and go out and actually lose the weight and be the first one in my family who does not have the same victimhood that comes from feeling unattractive? And like I said, it is your choice what privileges you want to stack. I actually believe that every single person in this world has a different view of what privileges are most important to them. So for me personally, pretty privilege is very important. Wealth privilege is very important. Being educated and stuff like that, that's important. And also having relationships, like having healthy friendships and stuff, just healthy relationships and healthy people in my life to where there's no drama. Those things are the most important to me. And the way that I like to see it is, if I'm complaining about something, that means it's pretty fucking important to me. So, for example, let's say I complain, like, I don't complain that my sock was a little bit wrinkled when it got out of the dryer. I don't complain about that because it's so small and so minuscule to the point where it doesn't affect me at all. But I do complain if I feel like my weight is not where it should be. I do complain if I feel like my stomach looks a little bit chunky. And I've noticed that for me, the more I complain, the more important it is to me. And the more jealousy I experience, this is another thing. I've noticed that a lot of people in the African American community in particular, this channel talks about African American dynamics, but a lot of people in the Black community, they get so afraid of being called jealous. And it's so funny because I see a lot of content creators, none of them want to admit that they've ever had any sort of jealousy at all. Jealousy is just another passing emotion, just like happiness, sadness, feeling angry. So you can choose to feel sad for a moment and then you just move on. Like, let's say somebody takes your parking spot. You're only sad for a couple of seconds, right? And then you move on. And then there are others who make sadness their identity. But the problem is, if you never address those emotions, then it will become a part of your identity without you even knowing because you're pretending like it doesn't exist. And I've noticed that for me, anytime I experience hyper jealousy or, repeated jealousy, it creates an inferiority complex over time. Because, for example, when I was younger, I used to feel insecure about things like my weight. I'll say my weight. So I'm not fat or anything. I just have an hourglass shape. So I felt like I could look a little bit fleshy. And some days I still do feel like I can look a little bit fleshy. So I don't have that super muscular, super like six pack body type. But in the past, I noticed that I used to have jealousy if I felt like other people, they just looked super thin or just like they were very toned and everything looked pretty much perfect. So instead of me kind of wallowing in that and making that a part of my identity, I recognized it as just a passing emotion. And I decided to take ownership over my own beauty, take ownership over my own pretty privileged journey, and attain that privilege for myself. And I don't have any shame about it. And who gon' check me? Yes, I want to be as thin as possible, and who gon' check me? Yes, I want to eat as healthy as possible, and who gon' check me? Yes, I'm going to wear wigs. I don't care if my hair grows down to the floor. I don't care how long and thick and healthy my hair is. I'm still going to switch in and out of extensions because I want to. And who gon' check me? So the way that I see pretty privilege is a journey. It's not a destination. So I've noticed that only the girls who do not have pretty privilege or they feel like they don't have pretty privilege, I've noticed that those seem to be the girls who think that pretty privilege is a destination. Like, oh, if I were white, I would be pretty. If I were light skinned, I would be pretty. If I were skinnier, then I would be pretty. And that's not necessarily the case because I've noticed that for me, the more insecurities I solve, I've basically noticed that nobody's perfect. So even if I have cured one of my insecurities, being, feeling chunky or whatever, and I lost the weight, I'm going to start working on other insecurities. They may be smaller, like straightening my teeth or growing my hair back out, maybe making sure my edges are as thick as possible. So this is a normal human behavior, by the way. All people have things that they're working on. There's no such thing as a girl who feels like, oh, I've just arrived and everything about me is perfect. Even the prettiest people in the world, even the biggest celebrities in the world, they still have blemishes they want to cover up. They still have, things that they want to Photoshop and certain angles that they want to take photos at and stuff. So that's totally normal. And I think that where a lot of people get mixed up, or at least where I got mixed up when I was really young, when I was a teenager, where I got mixed up was thinking that pretty privilege is a destination as opposed to thinking of pretty privilege as a journey. So I've learned for myself that the further along I get in my journey of, attaining pretty privilege for me and defining what that means to me and defining how I want to utilize that in my life, the further along I go, the more I realize that it's actually just supposed to be a lifestyle. Or at least for me, that's the way I see it, is this is a lifestyle. It's not, oh, if I just drop 10 pounds and fix my teeth or whatever, then I'm just going to be perfect and I'll never have any insecurities again. No, there's no such thing. There is no such thing as a person that is perfectly confident all the time. Even when I was at my very smallest and I had a 23-inch waist at 5'9", so that's extremely skinny, that's like very underweight. Even when I was that skinny, I still had certain things that I wanted to fix about myself or certain, things that I wanted to work on and improve. So when I decided to take ownership over my own beauty, I started to view my level up journey as, it's a journey, it's not a destination. So pretty privilege for me is more of a lifestyle. It's more of a self-improvement lifestyle in terms of beauty. And I feel like people who have never taken back their pretty privilege, because in my opinion, I actually believe that anybody can have some form of pretty privilege. Because think about it, there are so many physical features on a human being. You could have pretty hair. And by the way, I'm talking about your internalized view of yourself. So you could think your hair is pretty. You could think your eyes are pretty, your nose, your bone structure, your lips, your height, your boobs, there are so many different physical features on each person's body. So I actually do feel like some of the girls who say I don't have pretty privilege are some of the most self-hating, because I've noticed that a lot of those girls will make talking points like, hey, society doesn't like me and therefore I don't like myself either. So my response to that is, okay, if you have internalized society's beauty standard, if you agree with society that XYZ features are beautiful, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I do not shame people for their beauty standards on this channel either, because that's another thing that I don't like. Beauty is not political. Beauty does not have to be political. Just because you think a white guy is cute or you think a white girl is pretty, that doesn't mean you're anti-black. Just because you think a skinny person is pretty, it doesn't mean you're fat phobic. So the first step that I took to embracing my beauty and owning my beauty identity was realizing that I don't have to join in on the politics of beauty. I don't have to join in on desirability politics. I can play my own desirability politics game if I want to. I can choose what I think is the most desirable quality about myself, and I can flaunt that quality, and I can see how far it'll get me. And when it comes to something like desirability politics, have you ever noticed that a lot of people who talk about that, they don't talk about who they want to be desired by? So, for example, people who complain about things like colorism, texturism, featureism, and certain women, women like myself, women like the ones on this channel, that we are all benefiting from colorism, texturism, and featureism. Okay, well, who's giving us this color privilege? Who's giving us the facial feature privilege? Who's giving us the hair texture privilege? Who is giving it to us? Is it hair companies? Is it black men? Is it white men? Because your anger about what pretty privilege you don't have, that's actually going to help you to pinpoint your own insecurity and to pinpoint what you actually want the most. So like for me, for example, let's say I was jealous of a certain hair texture, and I was jealous because that girl who has that nice hair texture, she takes cute pictures on Instagram and she gets a whole bunch of likes, and those likes lead to her going up in the algorithm, and then it leads to like her getting brand deals with hair companies. Okay, so I just was able right there to identify what the root of the insecurity was and what my own desire was. Because remember, jealousy just tells me my desires. So if I'm jealous of a girl who becomes basically rich and famous from being pretty, that means that deep down inside, one of my desires is to become rich and famous from being pretty. So that may sound like a really big, daunting goal, and I understand. And this is why a lot of girls give up, because they feel like, oh, I can't compete, or I'm too old. I'm too old to get a brand deal. I'm too old to be a beauty influencer or model. So some girls, they give up on themselves, and then they get mad at the ones who didn't. So for me, instead of spending the rest of my life being mad that I have no beauty, I decided to go out and attain it. So for example, with the hair thing, at the time that I was experiencing hair texture jealousy, it was because I had heat damaged the crap out of my own hair because I was straightening it every day before going to high school. So instead of me doing that, I started taking ownership again. Hey, this is my hair. I have potential to have more pretty hair, to have hair that I believe is pretty, or to have hair that I believe will help me to receive pretty privilege. And so I'm going to work on that, because it's clear that I obviously care about that if I find myself feeling triggered when I see other girls who look like me and they have long, healthy, natural hair. So I decided as a teenager to go natural. That was like the first time I did the big chop. Well, I guess when I say go natural, I was technically already natural, but I was wearing my hair in heat styles all the time. I never wore any protective styles, and I never wrapped it up with a silk scarf or anything like that. So I decided to take ownership over that part of my beauty. And I said, hey, this is my hair. Let me see how much potential my real hair has, like my natural hair, without me having to straighten it all the time and stuff. Let me just see what I can do. And then, for example, I remember the first time I tried to wear it curly, it was a little bit frizzy. But instead of me getting mad and complaining that girls who had shiny hair have more pretty privilege than me, I decided to, once again, take ownership over my own body. And I admitted to myself, hey, I want my hair to look like theirs. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look a certain way. There is nothing wrong with thinking that somebody else is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with thinking that somebody else's hair texture is pretty. So I decided I just want my hair to look like that. I want it to be more shiny. So I just took care of my hair, and I went on a natural hair journey. And by the time I got to college, so it took a few years, but by the time I got to college, it got to a point where I became the hair model. I got to do hair modeling and stuff. So that was me kind of taking my beauty back, taking ownership over my beauty, and giving myself the right to enjoy my own beauty in whatever way I see fit. I was giving myself the power to change. I've noticed that when you don't allow yourself to change, it can make you powerless, or at least for me, especially when it comes to something like beauty and pretty privilege. If I have felt in the past like, okay, I want this part of pretty privilege, because by the way, I do feel like everyone has their own definition of what makes a person pretty. So I really do believe that everybody's beauty standard is like a fingerprint. No two people have the exact same beauty standard. So the first thing I did within myself was I started to break down, what do I think is pretty? What type of eyebrows do I think are pretty? What type of eyes do I think are pretty? What eye shape do I think is the prettiest? Is it the eye shape I naturally have, or is it a different eye shape? And if it's a different one, can I like do some eyeliner or something to make my eyes appear more like that? Because for example, I have natural almond shaped eyes, but I remember when I was thinking about this, my beauty standard at the time was doe eyes because I've never had those. Like eyes that are a little bit bigger and kind of look like more of a circle, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. So instead of me getting mad and saying, oh, well, I'll just never be able to have that privilege, no, I started learning how to do the different eyeliner and eyeshadow to like make my eye appear as if it had a different shape. I started playing around with things like circle lens contacts that match my eye color. So it just kind of naturally makes my own eye look a little bit bigger and a little bit rounder. I started just playing around with different like hairstyles and stuff that are supposed to draw attention to certain parts of the face. And I just decided what I liked and what I didn't like. So for me, a part of taking ownership over my own beauty and taking back my power, because remember, beauty is a form of social power. That's why people want to police it so bad, because they don't want you to have control and they don't want you to be able to utilize the social power that comes along with beauty. So this is why oftentimes your own parents, your own sister, your own teachers, or people who are around you when you're a child and a teenager, those people already see your beauty potential. They already can spot, oh wow, she has very nice high cheekbones, she's naturally slim, she has silky shiny hair, her hair is very thick. So they can already spot what I call your beauty potential, and they get mad about it. So this is why people try to police you. I've noticed this also happens with MLS women who are mixed race or women who look mixed as far as how the mono black community treats us. They will police the crap out of us and say that we shouldn't be wearing highlights, or like basically we're trying to be white if we wear highlights, or we hate ourselves if we wear contacts. Let's say you wear colored contacts and stuff like that. Or it could be anything. But I've noticed that a lot of people, they want to police your beauty because they're just jealous of the potential that your beauty has. They are jealous of the fact that you are confident and courageous enough to actually try that new hair color. So what if nobody else in your family has red hair? The fact that you had the boldness to try that hair color that nobody has, yes, that's going to make you stand out. And I've noticed that beauty really does trigger people. And it's because, in my opinion, beauty is a form of social power that can be used. And so whenever you change up your beauty, you are actually changing up your social power. You're changing up the type of social power that you have. You are literally changing how you navigate through society. So if your hair is naturally black and then you dye your hair red, you are now navigating through society as a redhead, technically, whether it's natural or not. That's technically how you are being viewed because your hair is red. Whether it's growing out of your head that way or whether you changed it doesn't matter. But I've noticed that people try to police you based on what you were born with. And they try to say, well, if you weren't born with it, then it doesn't count. That's not true. People are only saying that because they feel like the fact that you're changing your beauty gives you an advantage. They're jealous of the fact that you get to change your beauty and they're too scared to change up their looks. So they're sitting around with the same tired ass hairstyle from 1995. Meanwhile, you've been looking like a baddie every single month. Every 30 days, you come with a new hairstyle ready to slay. Every week you come with a new manicure ready to slay, and people get triggered by that. They get triggered by the fact that you have access to many different types of beauty, aka social power. In my opinion, the pretty privilege argument is really more of a social power game. So a lot of people, they want to guilt pretty women into making themselves less pretty. They want to guilt you into, trying to kind of dumb down your beauty. because they want to even the playing field. And when they say even the playing field, they really mean even out the social power. So, okay, you got two guys looking at you, but I've got two guys looking at me too. I can't handle if only two guys look at me and then 30 guys look at you. No, that's too much social power. You're only getting that much attention because you put on eyelashes today and you put on some clip-ins today. So that's not fair. So I'm going to shame you in hopes that I can decrease your social power that comes from your beauty. But here on this channel, I like to embrace my look. I like to embrace how I was born, but I don't look at it like, oh, a person that was born with certain types of features is automatically better than someone else, or they automatically have more social power than somebody else. I think that it has to do with how you navigate your life and what your priorities are, because when it comes to beauty and pretty privilege, different people have different goals. Like some people want to use their pretty privilege so they can attract a man. I don't think that that's the best way to use it. I think that's one way to use it. But some people, they want to use their pretty privilege to attract a man. Others want to use their pretty privilege so they can attract friends, like kind of a friend group. You know how sometimes if you get into a group of girls, let's say there's one girl and she's like the fashionista, or maybe that's you. Maybe you're like the fashionista, and so everybody asks you for advice on what to wear. Everyone asks you for advice on skincare and hairstyling. So that's actually a form of pretty privilege still, because they see that your hair is pretty, your nails are pretty, your outfits are pretty, your makeup is pretty, and so they're asking you for advice and stuff. That's still social power. So pretty privilege can be used in friendships. And by the way, like I said, I do believe that pretty privilege only works with people who are attracted to you and people who are not jealous of you. So if a person is jealous of you, it's not going to have the same privilege effect. It's actually going to have the opposite effect. They're probably going to stereotype you as being mean and stuck up. But anyway. Okay, sorry. It is the next day. I had to come back and finish recording this because my allergies were acting a fool yesterday. But I am a big fan of the looks maxing movement. When I use the term looks maxing, it's really just a term that I got from the internet. It is maximizing your pretty privilege in whatever way you see fit. So, you know how some people are like, oh, I like my skin to be as bright as possible, so I'll use vitamin C and I might carry an umbrella in the sun. And then there are other people who say, I want my skin to be as dark as possible. That is a part of your own personal pretty privilege journey. You get to decide exactly how you want your skin to look. You get to decide how you want to navigate through society, because I've noticed that anytime somebody throws shade at you and they're like, oh, well, your eyes are fake. Let's say you're wearing colored contacts. They'll be like, oh, your eyes are fake. Oh, but your hair is fake. They're just trying to call it out because they are doing that in hopes that they can, number one, scare you out of having the courage to navigate society differently. And then number two, they're jealous because you gave yourself the option to change. You gave yourself the option to navigate society in a different way. Your looks are important because your looks are influencing how other people see you. So, for example, let's say somebody wears some blue contacts. Then they are no longer navigating society as a person with dark brown eyes. When they go and meet people for the first time, or when they walk into the grocery store or something, they are navigating society with blue eyes. That's just a random example. But one other gaslighting tactic that I've noticed that people try to use on you if you have pretty privilege is they will try to make it like, oh, what if you get exposed? Like, what if you get exposed for having fake hair? What if you get exposed for wearing makeup, or you're exposed for wearing a push-up bra? And it's like, even if somebody does expose it, first of all, who am I trying to impress? Because this is my body. Like, I'm the one that's living in my body. I get to be as creative as I want with my pretty privilege. I'm not over here trying to fool people into thinking that my eyes are naturally purple, for God's sakes. So it's like, if I'm wearing a different cosplay contact, or I'm wearing like a different wig or something, you can't expose me because I am the one that's changing myself up. So yes, anybody at my job or my family members, they're going to know that whatever I'm wearing is fake, but I do not care because the pretty privilege is the same. The way that I feel about myself is better when I look in the mirror. So for example, actually, okay, this is random, but when it comes to this YouTube channel, I try to set up a reward system for myself. And so, a part of how I am planning to do my reward for getting 14,000 subscribers, thanks for subscribing, by the way, but my reward is I just ordered some of those bandanas online. You know, the bandanas that you can tie around your hair. You can wear a wig with it or something and then tie it around your hairline so that you can't see the line of demarcation. So I am going to wear those bandanas and silk scarves. And the reason that I got those is because it actually makes me feel more connected to my indigenous Latin heritage. I notice that when I try on a scarf or like a bandana type of thing, and then I just let my curls fall, or even if I tie the scarf around my face and kind of have my hair in a low bun, I've noticed that that makes me feel like I am navigating society differently. And it also makes me feel like I look more like my ancestors who have that indigenous ancestry. So that is a part of the way that I like to navigate my pretty privilege. Sometimes I want my pretty privilege to work in the way to where I look more elegant. Other times I want it to look like I'm a carefree, indigenous, mixed race Blaxican, and that's how I want to look. And that is a part of me taking my power back, and it's also me taking my heritage back. So, for those of you who are multiracial Black women watching this channel and you feel like, oh, I don't feel mixed, or I don't look like my Asian ancestors, I don't look like, my white side, or whatever side of the family you felt like you didn't turn out looking like. Part of the way that I like to utilize my beauty is I will purchase items that bring out the beauty of those cultures. So I like to purchase cultural items. It could be a headscarf, it could be a bracelet or a necklace. It can be a certain hairstyle like highlights. I've noticed that whenever I have any form of highlights whatsoever, it doesn't even matter the color of the highlights, people just start speaking to me in Spanish. So I don't know what it is about the highlights that seems to bring out different features or seems to make me look like I'm more Latin American. I don't know what it is, but I've noticed that every single time. At first, I thought it was only if I wear blonde highlights because I know that blonde highlights are pretty popular in the Latin community. But I was like, no, it's actually not the blonde highlights. It's just any sort of highlights at all. So the blonde highlights, caramel, the honey highlights, chocolate highlights, cocoa colored highlights, auburn, it doesn't matter. I've noticed that for whatever reason, that just seems to trigger people into viewing me as more Latin American. So I'm navigating society in a different way. And for those of you who are afraid to change up your looks, it's like, for the most part, people aren't going to ask you questions like, oh, is that your real hair? Or are your eyes real? Or, are you wearing makeup right now? For the most part, people aren't going to ask you that. But if they do ask you that, usually people are only asking you that because, number one, they want to copy it. They want to copy you. So that's why they might be asking, like, what type of hairstyle are you wearing? Or where did you buy your wig or whatever? So that's number one. Or number two, they want to see how high of a pedestal they should put you on, so they're already pedestalizing you from the moment you walked in, and so they're only asking you that to see, like, okay, should I put her on a very high pedestal, or should I try to bring her down a notch, or am I going to ask her this so that I can have something on her so that I can tell others, oh yeah, she only looks that bright because she stayed out of the sun this summer. So it's like, most of the time when people ask questions about your beauty, whether it's from a good perspective or a bad perspective, I still take it as, okay, I still achieved my goal because I got your attention, or I got the attention to the point where I am the center of attention. I'm the center of your talking points. You're spending your time focusing on me when you should be, bagging groceries at the store. You're over here at your job and you're thinking about me, one of the customers in the store, and wondering whether or not my hair is real. Like, wow, that means that I have a lot of social power. That's genuinely how I interpret it. And by the way, in my opinion, if people are asking if your beauty is natural, I actually think that means you did a good job, because that means that it looks like it could be natural and they're actually not sure. And so they have to ask the question. If it looks fake as fuck, if somebody is wearing a ratchet ass wig and I can clearly tell that it's fake as fuck, I'm not even going to ask questions about it because it's like hella fake looking. But if someone is wearing some sort of extensions and they look natural and I feel compelled to ask a question about it, then that means that it does look like it could be real. So technically, you have achieved your goal. Side note, so yesterday I went to a cultural festival. So this festival was celebrating African American culture and stuff like that. So I remember, so I just changed my hair, for those of you who don't know. I love half wigs. So a half wig is like where you leave out your natural hair at the front, or you could put a headband on it or something. But for me, I like to leave my natural hair out and do like a curly bang in the front, and then I match it, my hair matches the texture of the wig. So I was wearing this half wig, and it's like this ombre color. So it goes into brownish, blondish highlights, kind of like a golden blonde. So I remember I was walking down the street at this festival, and I noticed that all of the African Americans in particular were staring at me. They were staring at my hair because I did a good job. I mean, that's the only reason they're staring. They're staring to try to see, wait a minute, is that her real hair that's like curly and going all the way down to her butt? So the fact that all it took is me styling my hair a certain way, and I've got people looking at me, thinking about me, in my opinion, that actually is a form of social power. So you get to decide how you want to utilize your beauty, aka your social power. Do you want to utilize your social power to draw attention to the indigenous community? Because I do. That's a part of why I bought my little silk scarf headband thingies, because it just reminds me of those people groups. So yes, when I wear my headscarves that kind of bring out that native indigenous look, and then I tie that to my own beauty, I am technically, in my opinion, using my social power or my beauty to draw attention to the beauty of both blackness and the indigenous community. So that's what I mean when I say social power. You get to decide what you want to use your social power to draw attention to. I've seen some women who are pretty and they will start YouTube channels. So for example, with me, I don't even show myself on this channel, but I have used my experiences of having pretty privilege to talk about multiracial black women and to draw attention to that on this YouTube channel. And my goal is to help multiracial black women to continue to social climb. It's to help us to remain visible, because I am not going to sit around and beg other people to be my representation. So I'm not going to beg other content creators to represent me. Who is a better representation of me than myself? That's the way that I like to see it. But there are some times where maybe you want to show love to your other cultures. Maybe you want to show love to a different type of beauty. So you want to blend your beauty in with a cultural beauty, or you want to blend your beauty in with a certain socioeconomic status. That's another thing that I've done before. So I would wear like heels and suits and like very classy clothing that kind of looks more like old money. And that was my way of blending in my own beauty with that culture. And yes, it did affect how I navigated through society. And I do believe that it gave me more social power because I was able to get a job as an accountant. I've been able to get multiple jobs, I feel, partially because I dressed very professional, and it just made people subconsciously view me as being professional. But there is nothing wrong with having a beauty standard in your mind. There's nothing wrong with having your own beauty preferences. And I don't like when people try to police your beauty preference. And then they try to make it like, oh no, because you prefer to have blonde highlights, that means that you are racist and you hate your blackness. And that's why you have blonde highlights. And it's like, well, no, not everybody who has blonde hair hates blackness. Not everybody who wears their hair relaxed hates afros or hates curly hair. Sometimes people do things because they feel like it looks pretty on them, or they like how it looks on them. Maybe they like how those highlights look against their skin tone. They feel like it really brings out the brightness in their skin, or maybe it draws attention to their eyes. But a lot of times, people who try to police you or they try to stereotype you based on how you represent your beauty, oftentimes those are people who just want your beauty to be in a box. So for example, same thing with the people who say, but your hair's already naturally long. You don't need a weave. You don't need extensions. You don't need makeup. Your skin's already clear. Makeup is for people who have blemishes on their skin. Do you have any blemishes on your skin? I don't see any. So why are you trying to wear makeup? They're saying that because it's a form of gaslighting. They actually want you to feel a sense of shame with changing up your beauty. They don't want you to have versatility privilege when it comes to your beauty. They don't want your beauty to be versatile. They want to be able to predict your beauty so that they can attempt to outshine it. Have you ever noticed that? A lot of people who are competing with you, they want to try to force you into only one type of beauty. Like, okay, I know that Tiffany's gonna have the same tired ass blonde curly wig and the same eyelashes on. Okay, so now I know if I want to stand out against Tiffany, all I have to do is wear a different hairstyle or wear something that looks better than her curly blonde wigs, and boom, I got more social power than her. Have you ever noticed that some people, they really will do that? And so a lot of people actually get triggered when you switch up your beauty. Like when you are coming in slaying with the red hair, slaying with the black hair, slaying with blonde highlights, you're slaying with an afro, with a bun, with braids. They can't keep up. And so they will try to police you and they'll try to guilt you for changing up your beauty. And that's because they want your beauty to be predictable, because some women thrive on unpredictable beauty. By the way, I'm one of those women myself. I love versatility privilege. I love versatile beauty. That is my favorite form of pretty privilege to have. I like being able to literally look like a different person. I like being able to look unrecognizable, depending on how I do my hair and makeup. Like, I love doing that. I know that not all women do that, but if you are trying to do that, if you do like experimenting and changing it up, I have noticed that that will trigger some people, especially if you look good, because you are reminding them of the limits of their beauty. So deep down inside, there are some women who they've always wanted to try highlights, or they've always wanted to try wearing 6-inch heels, or they've always wanted to try to pull off red lipstick, but they were too scared for whatever reason. So whenever they see you try it and succeed, it triggers them because it reminds them, oh no, my beauty has limits. Like my beauty, I can't pull off red lipstick, or I can't pull off XYZ color. You know what? One of my personal goals for my beauty is not allowing other people to tell me, or not allowing society to tell me, oh, you can't wear that color. You can't wear mustard. You can't wear beige. You can't wear XYZ colors because that doesn't go with your undertones. That doesn't go with your facial features. Oh, that washes you out. So one of my personal beauty goals is I love to take a color that people say doesn't go with my undertones. Well, I have neutral undertones, but my undertones are slightly more cool. So warmer tones, those are actually not the best colors on me. But I love to take a color that may not be the best color, and I like to try to make it work on me. I like to try different highlights, different like eyeshadows and stuff. Maybe I'll mix it with a little bit of another eyeshadow, or maybe I'll mix a lip color with a little bit of that shade. So I am technically still wearing that shade that others said would be off or like wouldn't look as good, but I found a way to make it look good. I see celebrities doing this all the time. Actually, Kim Kardashian comes to mind when I think of this. She wears a lot of hair colors and stuff that technically don't match her undertones, but she finds a way to make it look good. And in my opinion, that is a way of taking back your power, or taking back the power over your own beauty. You're making a statement to yourself that I have limitless beauty. My beauty is limitless. I can wear whatever color I want. I can wear whatever lipstick I want. I can wear whatever hair color I want. Nobody's going to stop me from doing it. Not the color wheel, not any of that stuff. And I can make it look good. So I'm not saying to like do it and look bad, but I do believe that technically there are people who have enough skills to make any color look good on them and to make any color work on them. So for example, I know that with me, if a color is not the best on my skin tone, then I will just put a little bit of that color. Like, I don't mind if a little bit of that is in my shirt. Let's say I have like a mustard shirt or something. I don't mind if it has a mix of both warm and cool tones. That's a way that I can incorporate both colors in there. Or like I said, just mixing the color with a different eyeshadow or a different lip color. That is my way of showing myself that my beauty is limitless. So no, I don't have to put all these dumbass rules on myself. Oh, I can't pull this off. Oh, I can't pull off shorts because I'm in my 30s. Oh, I can't wear that because that looks childish. I'm too old to wear that. I'm too fat to wear that. I'm too black to wear that. I'm too white to wear that. Who told you that? Like, that's my question to you right now, listening. Who told you that you can't wear red lipstick? Who told you that you look bad with braids? Who told you that you can't relax your hair? Who told you that it's anti-black if you wear highlights? Who told you that you're not allowed to wear contacts, makeup, to get your teeth done, to get plastic surgery? Who told you that? Because with me, I'm not living my life based on everybody's rules. I'm not living my life based on your beauty standard or somebody else's beauty standard. No, your insecurities are not my insecurities. That's the way I like to think of it. Another girl's insecurities about her body don't have to be my insecurities. I remember, I will never forget when I had gained weight. So I went from a size 0 to like probably a size 12-ish. So in my opinion, I felt extremely fat and overweight. I'm 5'9", so it may not have looked like it, but I just felt very fat, and I remember feeling very insecure. But I went on a trip to a really big major city where they have lots of African Americans, lots of black women, and it's really hot there in that city. And I remember going there and I felt so embarrassed. I was wearing jeans, I was wearing like a long sweater because I just didn't want to show my body. I felt so insecure. But when I got to that city, I saw so many black women and they were really big, like, and I'm not throwing shade, but they were very plus size, way more plus size than I was at the time. And they were literally just living their best lives. Like they were so confident. Some of these women, they were not wearing bras. They were wearing crop tops. They didn't care if their belly was a little bit bigger. Some of these women, even the women who had like flat boobs or they were very skinny, they had no boobs, no butt. They just wore whatever they wanted to wear. And they were just living their best lives. And I remember thinking, wow, like I could never wear that. I remember thinking to myself, I would feel so insecure if I was wearing a crop top right now. But then I had another thought and I was like, well, looks like their insecurities are not your insecurities. They don't have the same insecurity as me. They are confident in their body shape, or they are, at least it's hot enough outside to where they just don't care. I didn't have that mindset. I cared too much. And I cared so much so to the point where I was literally drenched in sweat, literally dehydrating my body because I'm losing so much liquid because of all this sweat. And it was all because of my own internalized insecurity that I placed on myself. Nobody had told me you can't wear a crop top. You can't wear shorts when it's 90 degrees. No, that's what I told myself. That is what my own insecurities told me at the time. So once I decided to take back my own social power and take back my beauty and take ownership over who I am and how I wanted to look, that was when I was able to level back up and, get rid of the parts of my body that I didn't like and stuff. That was when I got snatched again, and I haven't gone back since. I'm staying snatched for life. But I wasn't able to achieve that without looking in myself and asking myself, okay, what are my insecurities about my beauty and why? Why don't I wear red lipstick? Oh, okay, it's because I was raised in a Baptist type of background where, they associate red lipstick with being a hoe and like trying too hard. I used to view lipstick as being a try hard. I don't know why. Well, I mean, it's really because of my background. It's because of my conservative Christian background. So I remember even when I was in college, when I would see other MLS girls who looked like me, like when I would see other multiracial girls, light-skinned girls, and they had very pretty hair and stuff, and then they would put on red lipstick or like burgundy lipstick, brown lipstick, and they would look like Aaliyah. I used to get triggered because I would be like, well, why are they trying to wear lipstick? They're just trying to be cute. I started having that mindset, but that was because I put limits on my own beauty. I wasn't allowing myself to express my beauty in the way I wanted to. I noticed that another insecurity that I used to have before I started taking ownership over my own pretty privilege, I used to get so pissed off when people would say, you look like XYZ celebrity. You look like Beyonce. You look like Aaliyah. You look like Alicia Keys. You look like Halle Berry. You look like Rihanna. Like it didn't matter what hairstyle I did. People would always try to say, you look like so-and-so, or you look like my cousin's baby mama. And that started to bother me so much to the point where I literally was not wearing makeup anymore. I was basically trying to not wear any beauty enhancements because I didn't want to look like I was copying another woman, and I didn't want to look like anybody else. I only wanted to look like myself, and I felt like the way that I could look like myself the most was literally by just not wearing any makeup, not wearing any extensions. But then that was not a good solution because I would get triggered when other girls were free to look however they wanted. But I also realized that when people say you look like someone, it's either, number one, usually it's a compliment, but sometimes they just don't want to compliment you. And so instead of just saying you look pretty, they just want to say you look like my cousin's baby mama or whatever. So either way, it actually is still a compliment because you have enough attention on you to the point where they're analyzing your features and the similarities that you have to somebody else. So that is still a form of getting positive attention for your looks, or getting attention for your looks, or having people take time out of their day to think about your skin tone, comparing your skin tone to some celebrity, thinking about your body type or how you remind them of somebody they saw 10 years ago. But back then, I used to just be insecure, and so I was just afraid of looking like I was copying somebody else. But people will actually use that as a form of gaslighting because I've heard some people say, like, let's say you get a nose job or you get lip fillers or you get, I don't know, a new hair color. I remember in college hearing girls say stuff like, oh, who are you trying to look like? So they're trying to ask you that question because they want you to feel ashamed. They want you to feel like by changing up any aspect of your beauty, you're only doing it so you can look like someone else. You're only a rip-off version of somebody else. You're never the best version of yourself. And I've noticed that that's just projecting. Just because the best version of myself happens to resemble, I don't know, like a Beyonce or some sort of celebrity, that doesn't mean that I purposely was trying to look exactly like somebody else. And plus, that's a compliment anyway. If anybody is comparing you to a celebrity in any way whatsoever, that is a compliment. Celebrities spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on professional makeup, professional hairstyling, professional lighting, red carpet appearances, taking pictures from the best angle. So even if somebody compares your beauty negatively to someone else, the fact that you're even comparable to somebody who spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on their looks and you are just a regular everyday person who's not rich, you are absolutely drop dead gorgeous. That is the way that I see it. You are drop dead gorgeous because the fact that you can compare to someone like that and you didn't even try really, or you're just wearing, Dollar Tree makeup and stuff. No, you're gorgeous and that's it. That's that. But anyway, what do you ladies think? How did you begin to take back your power? How did you take back your social power? How are you taking back your beauty and putting it into your own hands as opposed to allowing others to create limits for what you can look like? Are you one of those people who likes to change yourself a lot? Are you one of those people who likes having a signature look? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.